Hey everyone, today we have a video which I've been looking forward to doing for months now. I just have been really excited to do this video and I just can't wait to share it with you. I will be ranking all Stephen King books that I have read. I've now read 50 Stephen King books. Currently I'm reading The Regulators, which he did under Buckman, and I've been going really slowly through this one. I've been a bit busy, but at the same time, I would have made more time if I had been actually liking it a bit more, but I'm still going through that one. It's alright, it's not bad, but I'm taking my time through that. Anyway, I think that's everything I need to say, because this could be a long video. I'm just going to try and keep it brief for every single book, but I've got them all laid out on my bed here, and yeah, let's just go ahead and get into it. Number 50, we have The Talisman, co-written with Peter Straub. I've spoken enough on this channel about how much I really don't like this book. Basically I hate everything about this book, so that's all I really have to say. At number 49, we have Roadwork. This is another one that I've talked about a fair bit on my channel. I like some of the concepts, but overall, the execution I thought was terrible. I thought the characters were bad, unmemorable. It was really slow and meandering, and I felt pissed off that there was elements of a good book just waved in front of my face, but it never got made into one. So this book is lower down the list just because it really pisses me off. I feel like I'm being teased. At number 48, we have Lisey's Story. This is a book where I can't really say too much good about it, actually. I didn't really like the characters. I thought that the dialogue is the worst dialogue that King has ever written, and maybe I just went into it with too much expectations, knowing that this is King's favourite book that he's ever written, but I really just didn't enjoy Lisey's Story at all. Number 47, Rage. This is obviously the book that he's pulled from print now, and it's not very good, is it? It's not really the world's missing out on much if they haven't read this one. It's pretty silly. It's short and it's easy to get through, but it's pretty average. Number 46, From a Buick 8. This one isn't too bad, actually. It does definitely have a few good moments, but overall, it doesn't leave a lasting impact on me, and thinking back to it now, it kind of just sits in the meh pile. Number 45, Insomnia. This one, again, it's okay. It's kind of just a meh book for me. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It has some great moments to it, but overall, again, it's just kind of in the meh pile. Number 44, End of Watch. I could basically say the same thing about End of Watch that I said about Insomnia and From a Buick 8. Has some great parts. It's not a great book in general. It's not a terrible book. It has its problems. I think that it is definitely good. I think it's a pretty decent end to the trilogy, even though some people were dissatisfied with the way the supernatural gets incorporated. I can understand that, but I think he personally implemented it pretty well. But it's not really that special, is it? It's alright. Number 43 is The Long Walk. Again, I can literally say the same thing that I've said about From a Buick 8, Insomnia, and End of Watch. It's good. It has some great moments. It's not a great book. I enjoy reading it, but it's really not anything special. I think where the book dropped for me was the characters. I just didn't really care for them. I mean, a lot of them died. It's not really a spoiler to say because it's kind of the whole premise, but it just, again, it doesn't leave much of a lasting impact on me when I think about it. Number 42 is Cycle of the Werewolf, which I don't actually have a copy of. I borrowed it off a friend, and I did actually really enjoy Cycle of the Werewolf. I thought it was a really good little werewolf story. It's just that comparing it to his other books that have obviously, been a lot of thought gone into them and a lot of, just great meanings and subtext and everything like that, it just doesn't hold up. And I personally do prefer the movie as well. Number 41 is Mr. Mercedes. This is a pretty good crime suspense novel. I think the characters definitely aren't anywhere near the best he's ever written. I think that's where this book does lack something for me. But the plot itself is really well handled. It's got a lot of memorable scenes, and it's got a very good, even though the city is never named, you can really get sucked into this one. It's really good. Number 40, Night Shift. This is one that I was pretty underwhelmed with when I first read it, but on thinking back to it, I have noticed that a lot of the stories really do leave imprints in my mind, such as Children of the Corn and Graveyard Shift. Those two in particular are great. And pretty much everything else is quite serviceable in here too. It's just that it isn't, like, you know, just doesn't match up to the next 39 books. That's all I can really say about it. Number 39, The Gunslinger. This is the first book of the Dark Tower series, and it's actually one that has been growing on me more and more since I read it. Since I've read more Dark Tower books, I've read up to book 4 so far, and it's actually really, I think it's really good. It's very short, it's a little bit jarring and a little bit rough to read at first, but if you just kind of stick with it and think, okay, this is a little bit weird, but I think it definitely pays off as you progress throughout the series. You notice concepts that were introduced in this book being, you know, re-added in later books. It's a perfectly good book. Number 38 is The Dark Half. This is one that I was pretty unsatisfied with when I first read it, but reading it for a second time, I just realized, okay, it's kind of like B-movie material. It's just about a writer whose pseudonym comes to life and starts murdering people in gratuitous and violent ways, and I don't know, this book is just awesome. Number 37, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. I think that this one is actually quite underrated. I think not many people give it the credit it deserves. It's not a great book by any means, but it's short, it's super easy to get through, it's got a great lead character, it's a compelling storyline, and overall I just think The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon is a really, really nice little bite-sized book. Number 36, The Running Man. This is definitely one of the better Buckman books. I found this to be really engaging, maybe not compelling, but super engaging and riveting sci-fi action novel. It's very short and it's just an easy one, just get a kick out of it. Number 35, The Outsider. This is a book where I think the story, like in the first half, builds up to something that kind of doesn't really sit well with the second half of the book. It's kind of a book of two halves. The first half is kind of like, you know, a mystery detective tale. The second half is more of just like a straight horror story. I didn't find the world building to be overly compelling in this one, especially in the second half. But I found that the first half is so good and so original that it warrants a place higher up on this list. And the second half, the story is still great. The originality and the uniqueness and creativity just in this book is unbelievable. The only real reason why it gets like this low on the list is because it was made into a series on HBO, which I think is incredible. I think it's better than the book. I think it's just the kind of story that works better on screen than on paper. So that's kind of why it comes in quite low on the list. Number 34 is Rose Madder. This is a really bonkers book with just so crazy, so unpredictable and so weird that I know a lot of people don't like it, but I found it to be super entertaining, had a great main character. I liked this book way more than I expected to. Number 33 is Later. This is one of his more recent books and it's very, very short and it's just so fun, so just easy to read, easy to make sense of. I love the way it's told in first person. I think it's just excellent. Number 32, Cujo. This is, I'd actually say, a quite underrated book from the 1980s. The first half is kind of just character growth and development, but the second half is just suspense and just painstaking, just claustrophobia. Like, it is just sucks the heat right out of you. It's painful to read. It's got a really, really fucked up ending that will just leave your jaw on the floor. I think that Cujo is one of his most shocking and most terrifying books. Number 31, Under the Dome. This is a mammoth book and I found it to be extremely compelling. I love the world. I love just spending time with these characters. I love seeing the kind of way King writes people, how people act when there's no laws, no rules, and no one to intervene. I love the way he just portrays people with power and stuff like. I found it to be a super interesting character study. It's one of his most bloodbath books ever. Like, so many people fucking, oh my god, it's just so gory and so violent. The only reason it isn't any higher on the book is because the ending is fucking terrible, but Under the Dome is still a great book. Number 30, Gerald Game. This is a really, really damn good book that is super suspenseful, chilling and creepy, and it takes place with mainly just one character in one room, and it is just unbelievable how you managed to pull it off and keep it engaging the whole time. Gerald's Game is great. Number 29, The Institute. This is another really recent one of his. It came out about 3 years ago now, and it's just incredible. It feels so much like Stephen King putting Carrie, Firestarter, and it into one modern book. I love the characters. I think that the final third of this book is just so action-packed and so thrilling and riveting. I really like The Institute. Number 28, Wizard and Glass, the 4th book in the Dark Tower series. This is a really, really long book. It's a backstory for Roland, and I just think that it gives you so much insight to his character and why he is the way he is. And it's so necessary to the series. It might be a tad long, but honest to God, the world building, the characters, the way he just sets everything up so well, it's just incredible. Wizard and Glass is a fantastic book. Number 27, Cell. This is one of his best books post 2000. I think it just starts with an absolute bang, one of his most just memorable opening scenes. I think that the whole concept is great. I think it's really unique. I think it's really fun. I think that just this whole book is underrated. It's an action-packed banger. It's got a great villain and it's a great spin on zombies. Number 26, The Eyes of the Dragon. This is Stephen King writing a YA fantasy, which he actually wrote for his daughter. And he did a really good job at it, actually. I love the world in this. I love the characters. I thought that just the whole concept was really well done. I thought the plot was revealing. It took its time to get going, but it kind of just... It was like an egg. It kind of just cracked open bit by bit by bit until the climax came, and it was a really, really fast-paced and heart-pounding climax. It was just, you just wanted to get to the end and see what would happen the whole time. I read this book super quick. It's great. Number 25, 4 Past Midnight, a collection of 4 novellas. It's really big. They can basically just be considered novels. It has The Langoliers, which is just fantastic. Secret Window, Secret Garden, which is in my opinion one of the best things he's ever written. The Library Policeman, which in my opinion is one of the worst things he's ever written. And The Sundog, which is also really great. So it's kind of a mixed bag, but the highs in this one are so high that it warrants a place this high on the list. And seriously, The Library Policeman, even though it's shit, it is kind of entertaining. Maybe? Yeah, I think so. Number 24, If It Bleeds. Another collection of novellas. This one's much, much shorter. Anyway, they're all really strong in here. There's Mr. Harrigan's Phone, which is a good one. I'm really excited for the movie that's going to come out on Netflix in a couple of months' time. That looks like it could be good. The Life of Chuck is one of my favorite Stephen King stories. It's so unique. It's told in reverse, which I've never seen Stephen King do a thing like that before. And it's just so haunting and so well done. I love The Life of Chuck. I could make like a whole 10-minute spiel on that one. If It Bleeds, the title novella, is definitely the weakest of the collection, but it's still really good. And then Rat is also really nice. Apparently Ben Stiller's making an adaptation of that, which I don't know, but anyway, If It Bleeds is a really good collection. Number 23, The Shining. This book is just so good. Like, I can't really speak for The Shining just because there's so many good things to say about it, and most of it's been said already. The reason it's not any higher up on the list is because I do prefer the movie, but still, this book is scary, it's haunting, there's so many iconic scenes, the atmosphere just sucks you in, and overall, The Shining is an absolute classic for a reason. Number 22 is Skeleton Crew. This is a really good collection of short stories with a couple of novellas in here. Most of them are really good, but I'd say my favourite stories would be The Mist, The Raft, The Monkey, The Jaunt, and Survivor Type. Those are all bangers. Number 21, Thinner. This is by far my favourite Buckman book from what I've read. I still have to read Blaze, but from what I can tell, this will probably still be my favourite. I think it's a perfectly scary concept with just the right amount of fun, just the right amount of horror, just the right amount of gore, and just the right amount of dark humour too, especially with that ending. Number 20, Dr. Sleep, the sequel to The Shining. I found this book to be a bit of an improvement over The Shining, actually. I think that Dr. Sleep is incredible. Number 19, Billy Summers. This is an excellent, excellent novel. I really think Billy Summers is a great Stephen King book. I think, again, it's kind of like The Outsider, as it's a book of two halves, but I think that both halves of this book are equally as good. I think the second half is definitely more action-packed. The first half really sets the table up for everything like that. And overall, I found Billy Summers to just be full of heart and just such an excellent story. 18, Finders Keepers. By far the best book in the Bill Hodges trilogy. Finders Keepers is outstanding. It spans multiple decades and it is just a thrill ride. I love the characters, I love seeing them, and I love it just when he just goes ape shit in the last half of this book and everything just goes crazy. Number 17, The Drawing of the Three. Second book in the Dark Tower series. I just can't get enough of this one. There's just so much happening. You get to meet just some great characters. I love the world hopping. It's so creative. It's so unique. It's so just imaginative. And some of the stuff that just happens is just so wild. And I think he just paints a perfect image. Every page just turns by itself. It's such a fun book. Number 16, The Green Mile. Just such a different turn of events for King. He did such a good job making a supernatural drama in this one. I think that both the book and the movie are easy 10 out of 10s. The Green Mile is amazing. Number 15, Desperation, my 50th King book. This one is just out of this world good. It has so many creepy moments. He goes out of his comfort zone with the setting. He sets it in the Nevada desert, and he does such a good job at building the world around you, and there's just so many crazy moments. You just won't believe what happens in this book. So many just, what the fuck? Like, you'll say that out loud while you're reading this book. I love Desperation. 14, Different Seasons. This is easily his best novella collection in my opinion. It has 4 outstanding stories. My favourite one is The Breathing Method, and I will never forget reading that for the first time. Number 13, Carrie. His first book. I just found this one to be so chilling. I found it to be so well written, like for a first book. I found the epistolary style to be very, very unique. I found the way it revealed itself to be incredible. I thought the ending was great. It's just an absolute classic. I think Carrie is just brilliant. 12, Firestarter. Kind of similar to Carrie, but I think it was executed a little bit better. I found the overall concept to be more of a sci-fi action kind of concept and suspense rather than a horror. But I think he did it extremely well. It's paced really well. I think that it has one of his most cathartic endings. Number 11, Misery. Just barely not cracking the top 10, but this book is so great. It's suspense-filled from page 1 to page 300 and whatever it is, but it's a perfectly paced book. Great character, great villain. I think that just overall this book is just one of his best. Number 10, Revival. A much more recent outing of his. It's quite a short book, but it spans over about 60 years. I think it's like 58 years or something like that. It's this guy telling us his life story. And it's just so unique. It's so well told. There's a lot of musical aspects to it. There's religious aspects. It's scary. I felt ill when I finished this book. It was just such a gut-wrenching novel. And I just think that this book is an absolute masterpiece. And I think it doesn't quite get the attention that it deserves. Number 9, The Wastelands, the third book in the Dark Tower series. This book is about 600 pages, but it just contains so much action, so many scenes that are just gonna live rent-free in my head forever, especially this one around the middle, because like seriously, if you know, you know. But I think that this book has it's just another super creative book. It's easily my favorite in the Dark Tower series so far, and I just love The Wastelands. Number 8, Needful Things, my favorite Stephen King novel from the 90s, and one of his best Castle Rock books. This book is just so crazy. It's so unpredictable. Some of the stuff that happens is just so wild that it wouldn't even happen in your wildest dreams. This book takes its time to get going, it does, but it really works in its favor when it just goes all haywire at the end. Number 7, It. There's not really much I can say about it that hasn't been said before, but I just want to say that the characters are my friends in real life. Not just what I'm trying to say, the characters, they feel so real. It's a really well written book. The characters, they feel real. There's just nothing I'd change about this book. And I know it's super long, but on reread, I was just like, that's what makes it special, because so much of this book is just hanging out with them. Number 6, Pet Sematary. This is a dark and twisted horror novel. It is just so scary. Just, if anyone has kids and they would read this, I don't understand how you'd be able to just go on with life. Like, it's so depressing and terrifying, and just it's just one of my favorite books to read. I read it every year. Number 5 is The Stand. Now, this is easily his longest book, but I do think that this book doesn't need any editing at all. I will read the unedited edition at some point, but I find this book to be have such an epic feel to it. It's just all these characters coming from all over the country and just culminating in just one big stand between good and evil. Number 4, Christine. This might be a bit of an unpopular opinion of mine, but I think Christine is easily one of his best books. It's long, but it's Stephen King writing about a book with a killer car in it. What more do you want? Number 3 is The Dead Zone. This is one of my absolute favorite books. I've only read it once. I feel as though if I read it again, it might boost its way up to number 1. But just the characters are so real. Some of my favorites. I love the world. It's definitely my favorite Castle Rock book. And I just think that The Dead Zone is just an unsung masterpiece. It's such a gem. 2, 11/22/63. This book is kind of The Dead Zone's twinner. It's kind of opposites in plot-wise. I won't get into that, but I think it's really interesting. I love The Dead Zone, so I knew that I was going to love 11/22/63 when I heard the plot. And boy, did I love this one. This one was so suspenseful. It was so heartwarming. It was just it just captured the time period so well, and it just made you really feel as though you were someone from modern day traveling back in time, and it just made you feel like you were really there. And I love 11/22/63. And number 1 is Salem's Lot. This might be a little bit of a pulpy book in some parts. Yes, it's not perfect, yada yada yada, but I just love this book to bits. I wouldn't change a single word of this book. Wouldn't change a thing about it. I think it's so scary. There were times when I actually had to put this book down because I was just like, the suspense was so unbearable. It's one of those ones that really just gets the atmosphere going. I had dreams about this book. It's so creepy. It just makes my mind think. Just everything ticks over. I think that Salem's Lot is just perfect for what it is. I just can't find a thing that I would do differently about Salem's Lot. I love this book. So, that is every Stephen King book that I've read ranked. All 50 of them. Done. I'd love to, you don't have to, but I'd really like to see your ranking of all King books that you've read. If you have the time or if you feel like it, it'd be really interesting. But that's my personal ranking. Tell me if you agreed. Tell me if you disagreed. I know there are some kind of things that might make you just like scratch your heads a little bit. But that's the whole fun of it, isn't it? And I'm just so glad that I've done this video now because I've been looking forward to it for so long. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week. Bye.